So there you go. A V12 M120 out of a Mercedes that's starting to transition to a Mustang GT MT82 transmission. So we right now have a V12 with a clutch. The only one in the US, I think. Hey. Hi again. It's been some time. Been a little busy. I think it's been about 4 months since we had an update, but with the whole COVID thing, it's kind of messed everything up as far as getting parts, being able to travel. It's just been really difficult. So I want to give everybody an update because we did make some headway on starting the transition for the 6-speed behind the V12. Mercedes V12. This is out of that 600 SEL. You might notice some things a little different here. They're a little dirty, but we did, wow, they're a lot dirty. Did have those blasted and powder coated. Pearlescent blue. I was able to do that. I got some stuff and did those, so happy the way those came out. But let's get started. So we're going to talk about the 6-speed transmission. The MT82 is what we went with, and I'll tell you why we did that. And also go through the parts and show you how we're going to put this on. Because as far as I know, we're possibly going to be the first. I don't know, somebody could say. First in the US. I know there's somebody else across seas over in Budapest. One of the drifters over there, he's done it too, but he's got a M120 turbo. Anyways, let's get started. Okay, so our first issue is right here. Welcome down to the floor. This is the original M120 timing, what do you want to call it? Reluctor wheel, I guess, is what I know it as, but in a much smaller scale with an LS. What you see here is the original. What we went with was this guy here, which is a 60-2, which is this gap here. Now, we're going to go with an MS3 Pro as far as the ECU. So I'm hoping to be able to utilize either that point or this point for the crank trigger. If this doesn't work, we'll look into mounting something to the front harmonic balancer or one of the pieces up there to give it, where it's at. So this is where we're going to start. Anyways, this is the first item that we had to switch out, that I felt we needed to switch out. I say we because it's me and Kyle, which you haven't met yet, but you will, hopefully. Next thing, the pilot bearing. They didn't make pilot bearings for the M120s because they didn't come with 6 speeds. So we sourced this out, I guess you could say. Found a nice needle bearing that fits real nice in there, and we're good to go. So that's it for that piece. Now let's move on to the flywheel, one of the biggest hurdles that we've had to date. So show you that. All right, on to the flywheel. So what we have here is a modified aluminum flywheel, and we had it redone, re-riveted with a new clutch surface, resurface. We had this modified in a couple different ways, and if anybody's out there that wants to try to do this with the 6-speed or other manual transmissions, reach out to me. Be happy to price out a kit for you because this was all custom work. It is using McLeod pieces, and that's what we're running with the MT82. As you can see here, we're running on a 10.5-inch disc because that's what the M120 is going to let us run, just because we're, on size-wise, we can only go so big. We'd love to do an 11-inch or larger, but it's just not going to happen. So this is for the horsepower that we're going to make close to, what naturally aspirated 400 is what they made. We haven't done anything as far as mechanically enhancing it yet. Maybe down the road, but as much as we're going to get out is probably tuning. We're also doing some work on the intake, which I'll show you at the end of this video, which I think you'll get a kick out of as well. So, but this is where we're going. Now let's get this mounted up. Okay, sorry about that. My torque wrench was a bit smarter than I was, so I had to remember on how to use it. With all those torque down, we're ready to move on to putting the clutch on, or the pressure plate with the clutch. So we'll get that set up here. We did have this after all the machining was done and all that. We did have it balanced by a G&G out of Rantoul. Thanks, Mitch. Appreciate it, bud. He did a great job. Everything went smooth. Got the right amount taken out. Basically, the point where if we get a drop of oil on here, it will make a difference. That's how tight the tolerance is. So everything is good to go. We're going to put the clutch on. We got an input shaft, so we'll be able to center everything up, slap the pressure plate on, and we're moving right along. Kind of got a little ahead of myself, but I did want to talk about what we're doing here. This is the original bell housing, or part of the bell housing of the Mercedes 722.3, or possibly a 722.6, whichever one came behind this, the M120. We cut it off and left ourselves some room, and then we got a mill, and we just cut it down to the right length. Get to that in a second. We did the same thing with the MT82 case. Chunked it off, I think about 3 inches or so, set it up in the mill, and then milled this completely flat in order to make the transition weld nearly perfect. Plus aligning everything, it's going to be the easiest and best way. I did want to put that out there as far as how we did that and where and why we did it. We did have to calculate, by my calculations, we did have to calculate on the input shaft where it used to ride in the Mustang, and in order for clutch engagement and everything else, where everything was, how much to cut off, because this is going to be held into this case, and it's stationary. There's no nothing. So everything, that's why it kind of took us a little bit, was to make sure that we did this exactly perfect, basically. There's no room for error in this. So after a couple different things, after a couple different tries, I guess you could say, and a lot of hard work, we managed to do it. So this would probably be another good time to why the MT82. One, it's a pretty solid transmission. There's a lot of heartburn out there about some items about it. I've tracked that back down to shifters and the way Ford designed the shifter, and it just doesn't work very well. There's some kits, I think they're called like a blowfish kit or some other reason, because they're like a remote shifter, right? So they're not actually, like a T56 has it built into the case. That's not the case. That's not the case with these. So we're gonna, depending on when we get everything put together in the 68, then we'll look at where we should mount that shifter, remotely or directly to the case. However it is, we're gonna make sure that it's substantial enough to hold on and not ruin synchros, grind gears, and blow up pieces. Other than that, everything, all these parts that are in them, they're solid. They're good parts. So we've upgraded, we bought some upgraded parts to help with the transition and just be a better transmission overall. But for the money, you just can't beat it right now. I mean, maybe down the road we might look at something different, but I doubt it. We picked up 3 of these things for $200. 2 of them did have chewed up gears, but it allowed us to go through them, understand them, and get a good feeling for it. The third one, all it has is a clutch bearing out of it, or the input shaft bearing out of it. It's not out, but it was starting to rattle. Again, so we've taken 2 apart. The third one we saved to take apart because we knew there would be some transition period time like this over this 4 months of doing all this stuff, so we haven't taken it apart yet. I will have videos on that, and we'll do a full disassembly and reassembly and go from there. So here's some footage of us milling these things and putting them together. Okay, try this again. Having a little bit of audio issues, but hopefully we'll make it through this time. That's as far as we're going to get today. Reason being is because this piece on the pressure plate is just about an 1/8 of an inch, 16th or 1/8 inch outside of the flat surface of this guy. So in order for us to get a good weld, we're going to have to cut a hole in this plate, the same circumference, if probably about 1 inch larger. That way we can get this flush mounted for Jeff at Mild to Wild to be able to get good tacks and put in place. After that, we'll grab this modified trans case, do the same thing. We'll put the we'll put the input shaft into this, mount it. It will go through that hole that we have made for the pressure plate. It will align everything, or that's what we're hoping for. We'll have to adjust it, see where there's play, and move it up and down, left and right to kind of get it to square up. Our surfaces all should be within probably thousands, if not less. So we're pretty solid on that. We'll probably be more worried about tweaks when there's welding, you know, when we get this chucked up in place or put in place. So that's it for now. But look, we're getting there. This is almost a true 6-speed V12 from Mercedes. Next, last but not least, our intake. If you remember, let me grab it. Here is the big honking stock one, and its design. Not the greatest, so we're going to get more direct with the intake. We are going to use Suzuki Gixxer 1000 throttle bodies. You may have seen this if you're an M120 fan. There's a couple guys out there doing it. And we're just going to basically follow the same lines as what they do. We're going to break these apart. What we're doing a little different, Kyle is going to be building some Bobcat designs. We have already got the plate, so we can make some billet pieces for the transition. We will be using the stock fuel system, stock rails, stock injectors. Excuse me, not stock injectors, maybe stock injectors, not sure yet. But we should have all the holes, they will bolt up. We'll have tubes then that will be able to be canted or put in place to weld in, and then figure out how to get to these. These will be separated, added with spacers to adjust for the different widths between the cylinders and go from there. So that's going to be Kyle's project. Good luck, buddy. That's it for now. Yeah. So there you go. A V12 M120 out of a Mercedes that's starting to transition to a Mustang GT MT82 transmission. So we right now have a V12 with a clutch. The only one in the US, I think. I know that I think his name's Oliver over in Budapest has one. But he also is, like I said before, he's doing the drifting and everything, so a little bit different setup. But yeah, if anybody wants help on this, let me know. Be happy to give you some info. Also, big thanks to all you guys and girls. We're at like 100 subscribers. It's awesome. So I feel like, you know, what I'm doing is pretty cool. I like to share that, and that's why I do this stuff. I think having this in a 68 Camaro is going to be just wicked. So until next time.